So apparently, Airbnb now says AI writes 60% of its new code. And I have to probably believe that that is true in 2026. Now, the big question is what does that actually mean? So a lot of people out there are like, look, this is proof that there's no reason to learn how to do programming anymore. I would argue it's not probably really that. It's more of a force multiplier. I think about this with my little Pico project. All right, so I've got this little Pico project. I've been showing you folks a little bit. I'm doing some other things with the Picos. Look, I got my whole pile of Picos in the mail from Arduino on Saturday. So we're gonna be doing a lot of these little projects. And one of the things with these Picos is there's specific ways that you need to do everything, right? So with the Picos, you can use MicroPython. So these are what are called microcontrollers. So they're not a full-fledged computer. Essentially, you have a little processor on here. You give it code, and then it's just in a continuous loop. So it just loops. Gets inputs from the outside world, from sensors and that type of thing, and then you can do outputs to things like LED lights or buzzers. You can hit API calls. You can hit servo motors, servo motors, all of that kind of stuff, right? But anyways, that's basically what one of these things are. And you use Python in order to control it. Now here's the issue, is when you start using Python, like Python is Python. So how you do a loop, a while loop, or how you do a for loop, or how you do variables and functions, that's all going to be the same no matter what project you're going to do. The issue you run into is when you start dealing with things like hardware like this, is that there are specific function calls, there's specific modules, there's specific ways to make things do what you want them to do, right? I want an LED to turn on. Great. What's the name of the on function for the LED? Or even simple things like, if you're going to turn an LED on or off, you have to define the pin number that the LED is connected to. Then you have to define the mode, basically input or output for that pin. There's all these little configurations that you have to do. Now I know that they have to be done. Again, I've dealt with Arduinos for years. I just don't know with MicroPython, really with Python and with the Pico, exactly what the syntax is to do that type of thing. So what's really cool with using Claude, I go to Claude now, that's my favorite, is I can go to Claude and I can say, hey, I want an LED to light up on my little Pico. And it'll give me, 10 lines of code or to make an LED blink on the Pico, and then I can copy and paste it. Now, the important thing is I know Python, so I know what's going on. I can audit the code, I can read what's happening, and I can also feel very comfortable about modifying things if it's not exactly what I need. The issue is I just kind of basically need a blueprint, kind of like a paint by numbers. Like give me the paint by numbers, version of this code so I can go in and start tweaking it. And that's what I've been doing with my little projects here. And that's one of the values with this AI stuff as far as coding is concerned, is so many times when you're not quite sure what to do, or if it's just a lot of typing. I mean, think about this sometimes, right? You might need to type 100 lines of code. You know exactly what you need to do with 100 lines of code. Now you just need to sit there and type it. Imagine being able to go to Claude and tell Claude what you want to have happen, and then it can just type the 100 lines of code for you. It types 100 lines of code, you go through, you audit it, verify it's how it's supposed to look, and tell it to do a couple of changes, and then you ship that off. The important thing that I want you to understand here, and this is where people get confused, is like, well, Claude is doing the coding, ergo you don't need to learn how to program anymore. And it's like, no, it is not the answer. Right? I need to know what languages my Pico supports. I need to know why I would use either the C+, I think it's C version to code for this, or whether I'd use Python. I need to understand what Python does, right? I need to be able to read the Python code. I need to know enough about what the Pico does and what Python does to know when I ask Claude to do something that there's a reasonable expectation that this thing will be able to do the thing that I'm asking it to do, right? There's a lot of technical knowledge that goes into it. It's just that final piece where, it's just writing a lot of the code for you. And I think that's where we're getting to for a lot of this stuff with coders in the technology world, is it's not the lack of need for technology professionals. Really, it's basically the ending of a lot of busy work, I suppose. would be my argument. And that's the cool thing with the force multiplier, with a lot of this this vibe coding type stuff, or Claude or whatever else, is it allows you to get up to speed very quickly. Instead of it taking me 3 days, which again is sometimes how long this shit takes. Instead of it taking me 3 days to get an LED to light up on one of these things, literally within 24 hours, I can have my own full little project going, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I think that's kind of how you should think about this kind of thing. And so you take a look at Airbnb, and they say that 60% of their code is now written by AI. I do think that probably sounds about right. A large part of Airbnb's Q1 2026 earnings call was dedicated to talking about how the company is using AI tools for coding, customer support, and search. Notably, the company claimed that 60% of the code its engineers produced in the quarter was written by AI, echoing comments by others like Google, Microsoft, and Spotify, which have all talked about AI accelerating their programming. So yeah, and I think that's the big thing with this, is it's accelerating the programming. It's not eliminating the need for coders and technology professionals. It's allowing the ones that you have to be able to do more. Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky noted that the company finds AI particularly helpful for building tools for its API partners who manage their properties using different software. Quote, API partners say they want to be better hosts and need better tools. AI gives huge leverage where you might have needed a team of 20 engineers before. An engineer can now spin up agents, do a lot of work under supervision. Adopting AI tools gives us leverage to build more software for API partners, accelerating work we previously did and not have the resources for, Chesky said. So this is one of the big things in the API world. So we talk about APIs. This is something called service-oriented architecture. The idea of different resources are hosted essentially by different vendors, and then your code goes out and communicates with those vendors and brings in whatever, right? Service-oriented architecture, APIs. I know people that work in the integrations world, and one of the big problems that they have is dealing with all of these integrations. Imagine nowadays how many different pieces of software are out there, not just the software that you know, but also, people, they DIY, they rolled their own software or whatever, and now they're trying to connect to APIs. And one of the big issues is basically being able to manage and maintain all of those integrations so the software that's connecting to the services actually works properly. And apparently, I've been informed, it can be a complete and utter pain in the ass. And so it is kind of interesting here using AI to be able to deal with those integrations, right? Because that's one of the problems you get into in the technology world, is you understand what needs to happen, right? I know I need to define the PIN number in this for the LED. I know I need to set the mode for the pin that I've set for the LED, and I know I need to toggle the LED on and off. I know that needs to happen. What's the syntax? What's the syntax? That's a problem, right? Especially you're dealing with integrations. Think about all these different companies, and they all have, right? They all have many different ways things are supposed to work. So if you're just normal coders and you have to sit down and you have to figure all that out, that can be a real pain in the butt. This does seem to be a valid way of using artificial intelligence. Of here's the documentation for our API. Here's the documentation for the product that's going to be integrated to our API. This is what we want to have happen. Again, give me the paint by number version of how you think this should work, right? It spits out 50 lines of code, 500 lines of code, whatever else, and then you can go in and you have something to work with to start moving things forward. Again, I actually think that makes a lot of sense in the AI world. Let's see here. Airbnb has been slowly expanding its use of AI customer support for over the past year, and Chesky said on Thursday that its customer support AI bot now handles 40% of issues without escalating to a human agent, up from about 33% earlier this year. I do think this is kind of interesting though with Airbnb. This comes to my whole question with is it AI or is it automation? One of the things that I thought is weird over the past decade, 15 years, is that we haven't seen more automated systems. It is amazing what an if-else statement can do. Hey, tech companies, have you ever thought of if-else statements? They're amazing. Anyways, one of the things that I find fascinating is, again, you look at things like customer support, you look at so many other things. is if you understand how if-else statements work, you connect the databases and all that kind of stuff. It seems like over the years, a lot more could have been automated a lot better, and it simply wasn't. I think what's interesting now as you start looking at AI is I think this is the tipping point to get people and companies to start automating processes better. The interesting question is it really an LLM in the background or a reasoning model or that kind of thing? Or is it just some kind of automated routine that for whatever reason they didn't think it was valuable enough to try to automate a few years ago? So anyways, that's there too. So it's curious, right? Airbnb is pushing into the future with artificial intelligence. And that looks like where all the companies are going to go, which means, tech jobs. It's going to get harder. It's going to be harder to be a technology professional. I don't know what to tell you. Remember back in the day, I used to talk about this because again, I had my MCSE. So I started off in Army electronics repair. I got my MCSE, Cisco, telephone system, all that kind of stuff. And I remember years ago, I was talking about that. It was kind of like the A+ track, where so many of the systems for system administration had become automated, right? There are things called orchestration utilities, so Puppet or Chef, I guess Ansible is now what the cool kids use. So many other things had just been automated, like patch management software. I remember when software came out to manage the patches on your computer. That was a glorious day. That was a good day. I know, you're like, what? No, I'm serious, right? Like, oh my golly, you have this one piece of software and it'll make sure not just the operating system is updated, but Adobe is updated and the antivirus is updated and all this shit's updated and it's one piece of software to do this. Yay, right? But the thing is, as that came out, the old school IT, they just simply needed fewer and fewer employees. I've talked about this before. I do believe it was 2011, 2012. I was at Interop New York, and there was a keynote speaker. And the keynote speaker, and I've talked about this, they were able to doubled the head count at their company, and they reduced IT support staff by 25%. Again, that was 2011. I was like, what? That's not supposed to happen, right? They doubled their headcount and reduced their IT staff by a quarter. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing more and more in the AI world. And that's the thing, is like IT didn't die per se then. We now have cloud architects. You now have Ansible. You have people that specialize in Ansible. You have all this other stuff going on, right? Technology moved into the future. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot in the coding world, is thinking about AI is basically like I don't know if that's right, but like the Ansible for the coding world, right? The orchestration utilities for the coding world, which is going to allow individual coders to do more than they ever could in the past, but it doesn't mean the job itself is going to go away. And so that's going to be one of the big things to be asking. I've talked about this a lot in the past, this whole passion horse crap. People are like, I'm passionate about technology. Remember a few years ago when everybody was passionate about technology? What happened to all that? Where'd the passion go? I don't see the passion anymore. What happened? Anyways, I think that's going to be a big thing to be thinking about the technology world, is if you are good with this, if this is what you want to do, if this is what you can iterate through, and if you can keep up with the changing dynamics, there's still going to be technology jobs in the future. There's still COBOL programmers today. There's still COBOL programmers today. I don't care what Anthropic has come up with, you still need COBOL programmers. And I think that's the thing to think about with this, is if this is what you really want to do, there are still going to be jobs. But in the corporate world, it is going to be a bloodbath. It is going to be a bloodbath over the next couple of years as these companies right-size, right? As these companies right-size their staff levels to a good economic environment, and then they right-size their employment levels to the actual economic environment that we're in. Then they bring in the efficiency gains from artificial intelligence and these right? Yeah, we are going to see a tremendous number of technology employees be just thrown in the trash can, right? Elon Musk, right? I think it was early. I think it was early with it, but getting rid of 75% of his staff. I think by 2030, I think that's what the bloodletting is going to look like. But the important thing to consider there, though, is if this is what you actually want your career to be, yes, are 75% of the staff going to get fired? Yes, true. But 25% are going to be left, right? The 25% that actually want to do this job, the 25% that are reasonably good at this job, the 25% that are willing to keep moving forward, those jobs are still going to exist. Are you going to be making 250 grand a year as a 22-year-old? Probably not. But you might be able to pay a mortgage. You might be able to pay a mortgage. So anyways, yeah, I think that's what we're going through right now. Like when I look at this AI stuff, it's like the puppet, like, because that's the orchestration. If you go back 15 years, the orchestration was like puppet and chef. I think this is puppet, chef, CloudFront. I think it was CloudFront and AWS. I think that's where we're at in the coding world. And so it doesn't mean the engineers are still there. We've still got systems engineers. It's just not what it was like it was in 2008. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about Airbnb doing so much coding work with AI? Do you think there's still going to be jobs in coding and all that kind of stuff? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these episodes, do remember they are on Spotify and they are on Apple Podcasts. There is a link for those in the doobly-doo. If you also want to follow me with the other stuff that I do, you can go to LinkedIn, also a link in the doobly-doo. And with that, see y'all later.